The domain of spirituality is enormous, with a literature that encompasses 4,000 plus years of oral and written tradition from every tribe and nation and from every language, living and dead. A comprehensive grasp of this concept is essential for analyzing its role in behavioral health. Different definitions of spirituality are examined, with key themes emerging from these interpretations. Metaphors are used to further clarify the concept. The ways in which spirituality is expressed and cultivated are explored, along with brief insights into its relationship with culture, spiritual well being, and spiritual development. So, in this discussion, my aim is to enhance understanding of spirituality while also encouraging deeper engagement with literature, education, those things alike. Working in the field of behavioral health, what we do know is that there is much evidence to show the importance of spirituality within the behavioral health practice. Philosophical approaches to the study of spirituality has been discussed with exemplars of each approach provided. Additionally, attempts to clarify the concept of spirituality are plentiful, with much analyzing and debate about the concept of spirituality within numerous fields abound in the literature. So if you come across literature reviews, the study pertaining to spirituality in the health sciences include behavioral health, nursing, and numerous things. Those many studies have been conducted. The scientific issues related to the study of spirituality have been discussed, including the analysis of the brain and its relationship with spirituality. So numerous articles are out there, and these articles are exploring the concepts of spirituality and religion as it pertains to mental health. So you'll see topics covered like a therapist's role in spiritual assessment, spiritual diagnoses or spiritual mental health diagnoses, and things like providing spiritual care across various settings. The topic of spirituality remains a subject of ongoing discussion and debate within the field of behavioral health, making it a significant and relevant concept to examine as it continues to shape the behavioral health field. So now, let's define spirituality. So there are many approaches to consider and understand when discussing the concept of spirituality. For example, Coyle offers 3 approaches. There's the structural behaviorist approach, in which behaviors and practices associated with religion are key, providing meaning and hope, purpose, and a sense of connectedness. Then there's the value guidance approach, in which spirituality is intricately connected to values that provide meaning and purpose in life. And then third, there's the transcendent approach. So this approach emphasizes transcendence as a core characteristic, encompassing both transpersonal and intrapersonal dimensions. This form of transcendence influences individuals in various ways, like fostering a sense of peace and harmony, while also serving as a source of support during challenging times. While these descriptions provide some insight into the concept of spirituality, examining various definitions from behavioral health and healthcare literature can be enlightening. It is crucial to recognize that these definitions are influenced by philosophical perspectives of their authors, and each carries distinct implications for behavioral health and healthcare practice. So, here are a few samples of definitions of spirituality taken from healthcare literature. Also included, if you're looking, is a definition of eco spirituality, and that is just giving relevance for the many indigenous people. So, one of the definitions, if we're looking at the first one, is that spirituality is a quality that goes beyond religious affiliation, that strives for inspiration, reverence, awe, meaning, and purpose, even in those who do not believe in any good. The spiritual dimension tries to be in harmony with the universe, strives for answers about the infinite, and comes essentially into focus in times of emotional distress, physical and mental illness, loss, bereavement, and death. Another definition is spirituality, a belief or value system which permeates all of a person's life, giving life meaning in the context of 6 basic human relationships. First, to God or whomever or whatever is considered ultimate reality. Second, to self. Third, to others. Fourth, to the environment. Fifth, to the past. And sixth, to the future. One other definition of spirituality shown is spirituality is the way in which a person understands and lives life in view of her or his ultimate meaning, beliefs, and values. It is the unifying and integrative aspect of the person's life, and when lived intentionally, is experienced as a process of growth and maturity. It integrates, unifies, and vivifies the whole of a person's narrative or story, embeds his or her core identity, establishes the fundamental basis for the individual's relationship with others and with society, includes a sense of transcendence, and is the interpretive lens through which the person sees the world. It is the basis for community, for it is in spirituality that we experience our co-partnership in the shared human condition. It may or may not be expressed or experienced in religious categories. And lastly, just to highlight eco-spirituality, eco-spirituality is a manifestation of the spiritual interconnection between human beings and the environment. Eco-spirituality engages a relational view of person to planet, soul to soil, and the inner to outer landscape. The concept of eco-spirituality supports holistic practice in the realm of self-care, care of others, and care of the environment. The various descriptions and definitions of spirituality can often be confusing and provoke internal debates. Spirituality encompasses subjective perspectives, making it a topic of extensive debate and discussion in healthcare literature. The lack of consensus on its definition is seen as a significant barrier to integrating spirituality into healthcare practice. However, research suggests that spirituality, unlike physical phenomena, cannot be empirically tested in the same way. Therefore, expecting a unified definition of spirituality isn't quite realistic. Spirituality is hard to define, and it's such an elusive word. And that's because spirituality represents heart, not head knowledge. And heart knowledge is difficult to encapsulate in words. So now may be a good time to pause the video and take some time to reflect and think about the definitions shown and the definitions read, and reflect on which one comes closest to your own definition of spirituality that you've constructed for your own life journey. As mentioned earlier, there is no single universal definition of spirituality. This is largely because each individual's understanding of spirituality is unique. This point is often emphasized in the healthcare fields and especially in behavioral health literature, and is crucial to remember when you're working with peers, i.e. peer support. So as a therapist dedicated to client-centered care, I understand that it is the client's personal view of spirituality that truly matters. Moving on to themes and descriptions of spirituality. Recognizing the characteristics and how spirituality is described allows for a more in-depth knowledge of the idea, as well as signposts for clinical focus. So there's a review by Chu and their colleagues from 2024, which the review is based upon research between 1991 and 2000 on how the concept of spirituality is considered in health sciences literature. And what they found were themes about existential reality, which regards experiences, meaning and purpose and hope, transcendence, i.e., beyond current reality, exceeding the physical, connectedness, and that's like connectedness to self, others, nature, and your higher power, And then power, force, energy, meaning like life-giving, allowing integration and healing, and your driving force. Going further, Paley in 2008 identified the following themes related to spirituality, and this is quoted out of the text: religious faith, relationship between self, others, and God, belief in a higher power or transcendence, an expression of integrative energy, connectedness, or ultimate reality, reverence, awe, and other numinous emotions, a search for meaning and purpose, hope, the person's highest values, close relationships, various complementary therapies, art, poetry, music, the contemplation and enjoyment of nature, personal well being, political ideas, work or physical activity, personal gain. Going further, in 2011, Allure, who conducted a review of the definitions of spirituality and religion in the Journal of Religion, Spirituality, and Aging from its inception in 1984, was more succinct in concluding that spirituality is often linked to being human, to meaning, to wholeness, to a divine being, and to creation. The authors McSherry and Cash, they conducted a literature review of the definitions of spirituality based in nursing literature, and this is going from 1985 to 2002. And they identified what they called a spiritual taxonomy to further clarify the concept of spirituality. And so the descriptors found in this taxonomy included theistic, belief in God, a supreme being, deity; religious, like an affiliation with a religion and undertaking religious practices, customs, and ritual. Then there was language, using certain language to describe spirituality, such as inner strength or inner peace. Then there's cultural, political, and social ideologies. This subscribing to an ideology that influences and governs attitudes and behavior. And next, there was phenomenological, and that's learning about life from living and learning in negative and positive experiences and situation. Also included in the taxonomy was existential, a semantic philosophy of life and being, finding meaning, purpose, and fulfillment in all of life's events. We also have quality of life, which is implicit in definitions in that spirituality contributes to one's quality of life. And then lastly, mystical. And that's just a relationship between the transcendent, interpersonal, transpersonal life after death. There's also been research by Serban, Konishi, and Bader where they note key aspects of spirituality that are applicable to healthcare. And those things are meaning and purpose, things like in life and in life events, values, beliefs, and standards. And these are standards related to beauty, one's worth, and truth. Going forward, transcendence, someone or something beyond the self. And that takes us to connecting to self, connecting to others, God, or higher power, or the environment. And then lastly, becoming. And becoming is all about the unfolding of life as conveyed and experienced by the person. So, from what's already been reviewed, it is clear that certain themes consistently emerge when discussing the term spirituality and the descriptions related to it. All right, so now let's get into the metaphors of spirituality. While definitions and descriptions of spirituality are valuable, metaphors can also enhance our understanding. And so there are three particular metaphors that I find to be useful for helping to deepen the concept of spirituality. And those are the wind, a mountain range or journey, and a soccer ball. So I'll be discussing the metaphor of the wind developed by Hoshiko, and it was developed as a practical model to facilitate spiritual assessment and spiritual care based on worldview. Hoshiko likens spirituality to wind. Although wind itself is invisible, its effects are clearly observable. We can see the tree branches swaying, hair is blown in all directions, and maintaining balance while walking becomes challenging if it's super windy. And so wind can be powerful one day and a gentle breeze or even absent the next day. When it comes to hot weather, wind is a welcome relief, providing comfort. It also spreads new life by dispersing seeds over large areas. Wind follows patterns such as seasonal variations and can be particularly strong in the spring in some regions. It can blow in specific directions, though it is constantly changing. Windmills can harness wind energy, and when combined with phenomena like thunderstorms or heavy snow, wind can cause significant disruptions, sometimes with long lasting effects. So we can see that Hoshiko, drawing parallels between the characteristics of wind and spirituality, reveals many similarities. So while spirituality itself is invisible, its impact on a person's life is often evident, such as in their search for meaning during illness or their sense of peace in difficult times. A person's awareness of their spirituality may be strong at certain moments, like during the birth of a child, but then they may have their challenging periods, like when hiking in nature. And then at other times, they may not be so conscious of their spirituality or even consider it significant. So, just as the wind provides comfort on a hot day, spirituality can offer peace and solace in life and during specific experiences like illness or other despair. Spirituality can foster new beginnings and insights in a person's life and relationships. It can also vary throughout different life stages, evolving over time. It can guide and energize a person's life direction, sometimes even acting as a powerful force during specific experiences. Additionally, when spirituality intersects with events like illness or loss, it can cause a temporary or even a permanent disruption, leading to pain or what we would call spiritual distress. Next is the metaphor of the mountain range or the journey. And this information is taken from McSherry. McSherry uses the analogy of a mountain range to depict life as a journey or pilgrimage. And we also see this theme in the Bible. The steep slopes represent challenging times that can strain a person's emotional and physical resources. However, there are also periods when the path is easier to navigate. So, at pivotal moments, such as when one turns a corner to see towering mountains and green plains, one may feel awesome, they may feel wonder, they may feel joy. McSherry compares these steep slopes to times of hardship and conflict, like when you're sick, you feel lost, or you're going through, your own trials and tribulations of life. So during these times, a person's spirituality may become more prominent, often leading to questions like, why is this happening to me? Now, this can signify a crisis of meaning, prompting the use of spiritual resources like prayer or meditation to cope with stress. Such experiences can lead to powerful, life-changing insights, such as a person deciding to reevaluate their life goals and purpose after something, let's say a near-death experience. In the healthcare field, we often witness these things, like a nurse would witness the spiritual impact on events like near-death experiences. In behavioral health, in the field of addiction, we witness these type of things as well. Going forward, the scenic routes in the journey symbolizes periods of smooth and calm life where everything falls into place. Great job, healthy relationships, you have financial stability. Now, during these times, spirituality is experienced as joy, contentment, peace. And so in McSherry's research, it's noted that it is through this journey that a person's spirituality is shaped and developed. So while McSherry likens life to a journey, some people specifically refer to their spiritual experiences as a journey, highlighting the events that contribute to their spiritual journey. And lastly is the analogy of the soccer ball. So, the analogy of the soccer ball illustrates the integrating and unifying force of spirituality. And so, a soccer ball or standard soccer ball consists of 32 synthetic leather patches, usually black and white. High quality balls are stitched together with thread strong enough to withstand the play of the game. So the soccer ball here represents the whole person. Each leather patch represents a different dimension and facet of our nature and being. Just picture it. The black patches may represent the physical, psychological, or social domains of life. The white patches symbolize our ideologies, creeds, beliefs, and values. They can even represent factors or forces which determine our disposition and attitude to life in general. The leather patches are tightly stitched together by a strong thread, symbolically representing the unifying force of spirituality. The majority of the patches are diametrically and symmetrically equal in size and shape. They are all sharing the same structural value. The life force of an individual is represented by the air, which gives the ball its shape and form. The air touches all of the patches of the ball in an even and equal manner. Yet each patch is specifically having characteristics unique to itself. So should the thread be worn or should a patch be punctured, then the entire function and nature of the ball is compromised. This leads us to spirituality and worldview. Understanding spirituality can be facilitated by the concept of worldview, which is more tangible and can translate theoretical spirituality into practical applications for healthcare. Worldview is relevant to every religion or spiritual perspective, shaping a person's perception of their physical, emotional, social, and spiritual well-being. It is described as a set of presumptions or assumptions we hold, consciously or subconsciously, about the basic makeup of the world. Discovering one's worldview is an important step towards self-awareness, self-knowledge, and self-understanding. So in 2004, the author Sire proposed that a well-rounded worldview includes basic answers to each of the following questions. First, what is prime reality, the really real? Secondly, who is man? Third, what happens to man at death? Fourth, what is the basis of morality? And fifth, what is the meaning of human history? These questions are deeply intertwined with spirituality. Worldview helps in identifying and understanding spirituality, as a person's spiritual perspective is often reflected in their worldview. So, for an example, it may be said that someone with a Christian worldview will exhibit this perspective in all aspects of their life. The perspective of their self-perception, relationship with their self, others, and God, having a sense of responsibility to the environment, and their thoughts on life's purpose. Going back to Hoshiko, Hoshiko's views worldview as a visible indicator of spirituality, encompassing the meaning of 6 dynamic, interrelated, and constantly changing relationships. Hoshiko finds the term worldview to be more comprehensive, less emotionally charged, and more communicable than spirituality. She describes the worldview as providing coherence, direction, and meaning to life, making sense of one's existence. A worldview answers questions like, what is life about? Who am I? Where have I come from? What community am I a part of? What am I doing here? What should I be doing? And where am I going? These are the type of questions that reflect the 6 relationships in Hoshiko's definition of spirituality. Therefore, a person's worldview can be defined as the meaning they attach to these relationships. Hoshiko's model of spirituality as worldview is practical and it offers behavioral health a focus for assessing the impact of illness or adversity on these relationships and guiding spiritual care. So now is a great time for a reflection moment. So if you'd like, you could pause the video and reflect on the 6 relationships that Hoshiko proposed to be intricately connected to one's spirituality. For the sake of a recap, the first was to God or whomever or whatever is considered ultimate reality, a transcendent reality. The second was to self. That includes your self-esteem and self-image. The third is to others. That includes other people, such as family, friends, as well as your community and society. The fourth is to the environment, how resources are created and used, patterns of consumption, and productivity. The fifth is to the past, beliefs about the past, origins, and their influence on the present. And the sixth is to the future, the means of hope or hopelessness, purpose or lack of purpose, and beliefs about death and afterlife. In your reflection, you may want to ask yourself, do you consider all of these relationships to be relevant to spirituality? And if not, which ones are relevant for you? Another question you could ask yourself is, how is your own spirituality seen in each of the relationships that you see as relevant to your own personal understanding of spirituality? That is, what meaning or significance do you attach to each? With all this talk about spirituality, it is important to note the difference between spirituality and religion. Some may think that the terms religion and spirituality mean the same thing, but they don't. To be religious is very different from being spiritual in the true sense of the words. And we have to understand the difference and similarities between religion and spirituality, as they both, in understanding both, they can help you choose your own path. A quote that I found to be very enlightening and powerful from Deepak Chopra to describe or highlight the difference between spirituality is that religion is belief in someone else's experience, and spirituality is having your own experience. With that being said, I would like to discuss religion versus spirituality, showcasing 6 similarities and 6 differences. Okay, so the 6 similarities would be 1, belief in a higher power. 2, having a purpose in this life. 3, the possibility of a next life or a next stage. 4, to live a life in accordance with our beliefs, our purpose. 5, belief in the soul. And 6, requirement of faith. Now, the 6 differences. The first is it's an organized system versus a state of mind. Second, there's objective versus subjective experience. Third, tradition versus evolution. Fourth, the exclusive approach versus inclusive approach. Fifth, belief system versus personal life experience. Sixth, fear versus love and individuality acceptance. It should be noted that while spirituality and religion are quite different, they do overlap. And so going forward, to reference Merriam-Webster's dictionary, the definition of religion, the belief in a god or in a group of gods, an organized system of beliefs, ceremonies, and rules used to worship a god or a group of gods. The informal definition for religion is an interest, a belief, or an activity that is very important to a person or group. The definition for spirituality: an individual practice that has to do with having a sense of peace and purpose. It relates to the process of developing beliefs around the meaning of life and connection with others. All right, so let's double back and let's talk about the similarities. We're going to get into the 6 similarities first and then the 6 differences. And so the first one was a belief in a higher power. A higher power holds significance in both religion and spirituality. While religious and spiritual individuals might not share the same beliefs, they both acknowledge the existence of a higher power. Religion often defines and specifies this power, whereas spirituality allows for a more flexible and non-specific understanding. The second similarity is having a purpose in life. So at some point in our lives, we all develop a sense of life purpose, which is the central focus in both religion and spirituality. A person who adheres to a specific religion often believes their life purpose is divinely ordained and closely tied to their religious beliefs. Similarly, a spiritual person believes that they have a life purpose, with their spirituality guiding them to discover or navigate the right path. The third similarity was the possibility of a next life. Both spiritual and religious individuals often contemplate what happens after this life. Most religions teach the existence of an afterlife, such as eternal life or heaven, and followers aim to achieve entry into the next stage. Similarly, spiritual people believe in a subsequent phase and strive to become the kind of person who will be blessed to experience it. The fourth similarity is to live a life in accordance with the belief or with the purpose. And so religion often prescribes a specific way of life, and those who are devoted to their faith typically adhere to these guidelines. On the other hand, spiritual individuals also believe in living their lives according to certain principles. Although their approach is not bound by a rigid belief system or predefined format, their beliefs still significantly influence their lifestyle. Next is all about the soul. So religion teaches that the soul resides within the body, and spirituality shares a similar view. In both religion and spirituality, the soul holds paramount importance. And lastly, they both share a sort of requirement of faith. So in order to be religious or spiritual, you have to have faith. And that faith is based on believing that there is a higher power and purpose for our lives. So just as a recap, the similarities were belief in a higher power, having a purpose in this life, the possibility of a next life, to live a life in accordance to the belief or purpose, belief in the soul, and a requirement of faith. All right, moving on to the 6 differences of religion versus spirituality. So the first difference is an organized system versus a state of mind. In a specific religion, adherents follow a defined belief system and set of practices for living and worship. Members are expected to observe certain customs and traditions to be a part of the faith. Conversely, spirituality does not adhere to a strict set of rules for living or worship. It is based on a personal approach to life where spiritual matters are observed, respected, and explored without following a specific list of regulations. The second difference is objective versus subjective experience. Religion emphasizes an objective experience involving external elements like places of worship, sacred text, and participation in rituals and traditions. In contrast, spirituality is an internal journey that does not require specific external activities to enhance inner awareness, and it typically does not involve a designated house of worship. Moving on to the third difference, and that would be tradition versus evolution. Religions are often deeply rooted in traditions, doctrines, and rituals, which can make them rigid. The teachings of the founder are followed, understood, and applied to ensure that they are preserved and passed down through generations. In contrast, spirituality is formless and flexible, focusing on evolutionary approach rather than adhering to tradition or doctrine. It emphasizes change and being aware of how things evolve over time. Fourth is the exclusive approach versus inclusive approach. Religions often adhere to firm beliefs, which can lead to exclusivity, with followers associating primarily with those who share the same belief system. In contrast, spirituality emphasizes inclusivity, uniting everyone through a shared sense of spirit. It aims to bring people together in the pursuit of peace and purpose. All right, and the fifth difference is belief system versus personal life experience. Now, religion is based on a belief system that is essentially founded on someone else's experience, whereas spirituality is all about having your own life experience. And then the last difference is fear versus love and the acceptance of individuality. So, although religions emphasize love and kindness, they often incorporate an element of fear related to rules, lifestyle, and strict worship guidelines. Spirituality, on the other hand, places a greater emphasis on accepting individuality and expressing love, typically without involving fear in the experience. So by now you may be wondering, is it possible to be both religious and spiritual? Or do I actually have to choose one or the other? And that's really something that you have to consider. You can indeed be a combination of both, but know that being religious doesn't automatically make you spiritual, and being spiritual doesn't automatically make you religious. Some people do decide to choose either religion or spirituality, and some people combine both. When it comes to religion and spirituality, it's ultimately a personal choice. If you're exploring your options, consider trying out a few from both ends of the spectrum to see which aligns best with your personal style and preferences. Choose the path that's right for you. And with that being said, no discussion of spirituality would be complete without some reference to spiritual development. The concept of spiritual development aligns with other forms of personal development. Unlike physical development, which tends to decline with age, spiritual development can continue to grow until the end of life as individuals gain new spiritual insights, beliefs, and values. As a process, spiritual development may occur when a person becomes aware of what is meaningful in his or her life, or what or who provides purpose in his or her life. It can also occur as spirituality is expressed by the person in various ways. Some people may feel as though they've developed a sense of the transcendent. However, not all people will connect to this supreme being. Stressing that one's spirituality is expressed by a person in various ways, let's take a look at the summary of Fowler's stages of faith development. So the first stage is undifferentiated faith. This stage is from infancy to 3 years old. In this stage, the child's task at this stage is to acquire the fundamental spiritual qualities of trust and mutuality, as well as courage, hope, and love. Parental responses to a child can undermine or enhance these qualities. The second stage is intuitive projective faith. This stage occurs from 3 to 7 years old. Here, children relate intuitively to the ultimate conditions of existence through stories and images, the fusion of fact and feelings. What is make-believe or magically concocted is what reality is. Stories, actions, examples, and moods influence and shape the child's view of reality. For example, Santa Claus may be seen as real, and depending on the stories told to the child, God may be seen as an old man in the sky. The third stage is mythic literal faith, and this goes from about school age up to 12 years old, but it can extend into adulthood. In this stage, fantasy is sorted out from fact. Stories help children find meaning and give organization to experience. Beliefs and practices of the community are learned, which help the child make sense of the community and the world of which he or she is a part of. However, stories, beliefs, and practices are taken literally rather than with abstract meanings. For example, a child will learn stories from a particular faith tradition and accept them at face value, which provides him or her with a means of making sense of the community and the world around him or her. The fourth stage is synthetic conventional faith. This occurs from childhood, adolescent, but can extend to adulthood as well. In this stage, the experience of the world goes beyond that experienced in the family unit. This stage must provide a helpful understanding of the extended environment. The synthesis of values and information provides the basis of identity. Conforming to the beliefs of others around them is common because these beliefs have not yet been reflected on or studied objectively. For example, teens may observe the rituals and traditions of a particular faith and accept parents' beliefs. The fifth stage is individuative reflective faith. This occurs from young adults but can extend to later adulthood. In this stage, self-identity and worldview are developed, which are unique to the person. Independent commitments, lifestyle, beliefs, and attitudes are formed. The demythologizing of symbols into conceptual meanings occurs as the literal changes into the meaning underlying it. For example, someone who has been taught not to touch the holy water in the parent's home sees this not as a religious edict, but as a means of respect for what is sacred. 6. Conjunctive faith. This goes from adults past midlife. In this stage, adults find new appreciation for their past, value their inner voices, and become aware of deep-seated myths, prejudices, and images that are indwelling because of their social background. An individual with conjunctive faith strives to unify opposites in mind and experiences and allows vulnerability to the strange truths of those who are other. For example, instead of trying to dissuade or avoid others with differing spiritual beliefs, a person in this stage would embrace persons of other traditions, other faith traditions, recognizing that in their faith may be new understanding. And lastly, we're at stage 7, which is universalizing stage of faith. Now, this is a stage that is infrequently reached by many people, but it can be reached. So it is said that those in this stage of faith have a sense of an ultimate environment that is inclusive of all being. They have become incarnators and actualizers of the spirit of an inclusive and fulfilled human community. It is in this stage that these persons work to unshackle social, political, economic, or ideological burdens in society. They fully love life, yet simultaneously hold it loosely. Fowler also gave examples of people whom had achieved this stage, and those included Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., Mother Teresa, and Gandhi. Now that we've explored spirituality, let's discuss spiritual-based coping strategies. Life is full of challenges, and how we cope with stress can shape our well-being. Spiritual-based coping strategies provide a unique way to find strength, peace, and resilience. These strategies involve connecting with someone greater than ourselves, whether through prayer, meditation, gratitude, or acts of service. They help foster hope, meaning, and a sense of purpose in difficult time. Research shows that spiritual practices can reduce anxiety, improve emotional regulation, and enhance overall mental health. Whether through faith, mindfulness, or a supportive community, spiritual coping empowers us to navigate life's struggles with inner peace and resilience. So spiritual coping extends beyond the confines of organized religion, often involving personal and individualized practices aimed at finding meaning and transcendence during difficult times. So unlike religious coping, which typically involves a structured set of beliefs and rituals, spiritual coping can encompass a broader range of practices like mindfulness, meditation, and nature-based spirituality. These are practices that are often focused on self-reflection, inner peace and the search for personal meaning rather than adhering to traditional religious frameworks. Spiritual coping mechanisms are particularly common among individuals who identify as spiritual but not religious, and this is a demographic that has been growing within recent years. As previously stated, spiritual coping mechanisms refer to individualized, often non-institutionalized practices that people use to manage their stress and find meaning in difficult circumstances. Kind of different from religious coping, which is tied to an organized belief system. Spiritual coping focuses more on a personal spirituality and the quest for connection to the transcendent or higher power, regardless of whatever the belief about the higher power is. So, like these 6 differences and similarities from earlier, I have 6 spiritual-based coping strategies. So the first is prayer and meditation. Engaging in prayer and meditation fosters a sense of peace, grounding, and connection with a higher power or your inner self. Gratitude practice. Reflecting on and expressing gratitude shifts focus from stress to appreciation, fostering a positive mindset and emotional resilience. Third, it would be reading scripture or sacred text or anything that you find significant. Reading these can provide comfort, support, wisdom, and guidance during challenging times. Fourth, acts of service. Helping others through volunteering or just simple acts of kindness fosters a sense of purpose, fulfillment, and interconnectedness. Fifth, faith-based community support. So engaging with a spiritual or even a religious community provides emotional support, encouragement, and a sense of belonging. And lastly, mindful reflection and journaling. Write about it. Write about spiritual insights, challenges, or even your blessings. Doing so can promote clarity, emotional release, and personal growth. Spiritual coping mechanisms provide a flexible framework for dealing with stress and adversity. So, for example, mindfulness and meditation practices are widely recognized for the role in reducing anxiety and promoting emotional awareness. One of the key aspects of spiritual coping is its role in personal transformation, because this often leads individuals toward greater self-awareness, resilience, and meaning making during times of trials and tribulations. So spiritual coping allows individuals to frame their challenges as opportunities for growth, fostering what is known as post-traumatic growth, where individuals report positive psychological change as a result of their struggles. So for instance, someone experiencing a significant life stressor, such as the loss of a loved one, might turn to spiritual practices like meditation or journaling to process their grief and develop a deeper sense of purpose. These practices not only help in managing immediate emotional pain, but they also help to facilitate long-term personal growth by allowing you to integrate the experience into their ever-evolving life narrative. And there is research. Empirical studies have shown that individuals engaging in spiritual coping often experience higher levels of psychological resilience and well-being, particularly when they are able to make meaning out of their suffering. The research indicates that spiritual coping is linked to improved mental health outcomes, such as reduced anxiety, reduced depression, and increased life satisfaction, especially in populations that deal with chronic illness, bereavement, and existential crisis. So by facilitating a shift in perspective, spiritual coping can help you not only endure hardship, but also emerge from it with a renewed sense of purpose and connection to something larger than ourselves. This transformative process is central to the healing potential of spiritual coping, making it a powerful tool for managing life's most profound challenges. Now that you have heard the benefits of spiritual based coping, here are some questions to reflect on. The first is, how have my spiritual beliefs or practices helped me navigate difficult times in the past, and how can I apply them more intentionally in my daily life? Second, which spiritual coping strategies resonate most with me, and how can I incorporate them into my routine to enhance my emotional and mental well being? And third, in what ways does my spirituality provide me with a sense of meaning, purpose, or connection? And how can I strengthen this aspect of my coping process? In your personal time, take some time to reflect on those questions and consider how spiritual based coping strategies can enhance your resilience, provide deeper meaning in your life, and strengthen your emotional well being. Use this reflection to identify practical ways to integrate spirituality into your daily routine, helping you navigate challenges with greater peace and purpose.